Now, material remains of the urban centers suggest that the urban crisis that had set in during the post-Kushana period became widespread after the 6th century of the Common Era. With the onset of urban crisis, the situation developed completely to the disadvantage of Buddhism. Buddhist monasteries were no longer attracting generous donations and political patronage on the same scale as before. The dispersal of merchants, traders, bankers, financiers, and artisans sapped the socially and economically vital foundations of the Saṃgha. The loss of traditional lay sporters as well as material sport led to the dwindling in numbers of those who aspired to adopt renunciation in the Buddhist Saṃgha. In such a newly emerged situation, the existence of the Saṃgha became very precarious indeed. One direct consequence was that majority of the small monasteries which formerly existed in the vicinity of urban settlements became mostly derelict. Thereafter, the Saṃgha became concentrated in fewer and fewer monasteries. As time went by and as more and more urban settlements decayed, the number of Buddhist monasteries became reduced significantly. Though some support may still have accrued here and there from the few surviving or newly emerged urban settlements to an insignificant number of Buddhist monasteries, the number of traditional worshippers of Buddhism became grievously small. From the 6th, 7th centuries onwards, the few surviving Buddhist monasteries began to tune themselves to the emerging feudal situation by adopting new roles for themselves through the practice of self-supporting economies based on land grants. Further, the Saṃgha liberalized learning and opened the doors of its monasteries to secular education so as to make it more effective in debates and disputation. Thus, from the 5th century onwards, a number of monasteries began to grow out of their conventional character into centers of lay-sized academic learning and scholarship. Here, the learning was not confined to Saṃgha members alone, but was made available to all seekers after knowledge, Buddhists as well as non-Buddhists. Like their Brahmanical Hindu counterparts, the Buddhist monasteries also began to accept donations of arable land for religious purposes from the kings and their chiefs. Consequently, some of them at places such as Nalanda, Paharpur, and Vallabhi became metamorphosed into reputed centers of learning and developed into fully grown universities, Mahaviharas. In the new scenario, they had to manage not only large landed estates but also a whole lot of other things associated with such estates. Monastic landlordism naturally led to revolutionary changes in the very character of these newly sprang Mahaviharas. This phenomenon helped these few Mahaviharas to survive and even prosper for a while, independently of their traditional supporters. As pointed out by Sukumar Dutt, from the Gupta period onwards, building monasteries and providing for their upkeep began to be regarded more as a service rendered to the cause of learning and culture than to the cause of Buddhism. A major share of the land grants to Buddhist institutions came from their Brahmanical Hindu patrons. Now, most of the donors appear to have approached Buddhist deities as if they were Brahmanical Hindu deities. One consequence of such an attitude was that it contributed towards smudging the boundaries that existed between Brahmanical Hinduism and Buddhism as two distinct religions. Besides, these Mahaviharas turned out to be poor competitors to their Brahmanical Hindu counterparts. For instance, Brahmanical Hindu temples had a clear advantage over Mahaviharas in the management of landed estates. The Mahaviharas and Brahmanical Hindu temples differed greatly from each other in terms of their nature and also their interaction with the lay society. Not being monolithic, Brahmanical Hinduism was a religion which drew its sustenance from the village. As compared to this, Buddhism not only tried to keep its core area of interest outside of mundane matters, it was also led by intellectuals who always remained wary of those who lacked sophistication and affluence. Its intellectual snobbery had kept the Buddhist Saṃgha out of touch with the masses. A Brahmanical Hindu temple invariably ministered to the religious needs of a large village or a populous quarter of a town. In sharp contrast to this, a Buddhist monastery only served as a center of intellectual and spiritual inspiration for anyone who wanted it. The Brahmanical Hindu temples, due to their better knowledge of agriculture, especially rice cultivation and seasons, and wider socio-political functions, obtained an advantage over Buddhist Mahavihara. This advantage was manifested in the shift of royal patronage from Buddhism to Brahmanical Hindu sects, which became more visible by the end of the 11th century and is quite evident in the artistic record of the period. Thank you so much.